Good evening, everybody. I'd like to share a few notes from Rebecca Miles' The Pastor as Moral Guide, Chapter 3, Good and Faithful Servants Making Money and Finding Meaning in Work, or Meaning at Work. She starts off by explaining that there's a choice between duties and goods when you're talking about work. Work being a duty to get goods. And the question is asked, how does work relate to our faith in God? How does work contribute to our communities and to our families? We live in a society where it's very easy to become overworked because there's just so much to do all of the time. And it's also easy to become identified with the work that you do or the work that we do because we are working so much and all the time. When we have conversations, a lot of the times when we talk about ourselves, one of the things that we talk about is the work that we perform. And so sometimes that leads to us putting and attributing our worth to the work that we do rather than who we are as people. And if we are lacking work or out of work or overtaxed or stressed because of work, then that sort of messes with our ability to think about who we are as people created by God than just people who happen to do this or not do that. So whether it's overwork or a lack of work, any given congregation is filled with people who are contending with a litany of different stages or stances in regards to work. Some may be overworked, some may be looking for work, some may be retired, some may be disabled, some may be in school. There are different levels of work, and everybody has a different situation. No one person or two people's situation is exactly the same. Therefore, their perspective about work will not be the same. How one works determines how you function with your family, how you function within your church, how you care for yourself. It also affects, on the other side, whether you're a person who is a member of a church or if you are ministering at a church. It affects the level of pastoral care that you give someone. It affects the level of counseling needs that someone will need for you to give to them, based on what they bring to you and based on what you bring to the table as well. So there's different sides of the coins and different things to look at and consider. So she goes on to explain that there are things that we must consider about work. We need to remember that God created the world as a work, and he continues to work to maintain his creation, the world, we ourselves, and he created us, men, to work. Not only were we created to work, but the Bible goes on to talk about the fact that work is toil, meaning sometimes it's going to be tough, sometimes it's going to be hard. Sometimes work is punishment for sin. There's a quote from Martin Luther where it says, all people are called to do the work that is before them. When we talk about that, we're kind of thinking about the fact that everybody has some sort of work to do. Whether you're thinking about it and it is toil, whether you're thinking about it and it's punishment for sin, whether you're thinking about it and it's something that you are doing as a means to an end, to whether you're helping someone out or you are literally working for your own existence. Repeating what has happened in modern times is that the benefits of work, the things that we get from work, the tangible things, are much more valued sometimes than the work itself. And prosperity sometimes has been placed above vocation. We don't always think about work as a vocation, something that God has given to us to do or gifted to us the ability to do, because sometimes we're just so busy trying to get the things, whether we really need those things or whether we may be greedy. We sometimes forget that God has gifted us with the ability to work. So we need to have a fundamental reshaping in regards to how we think about work. There should be a balance between the idealism of what God has gifted us with and the realism of what it really is in the course of our lives. Some of it may need to come up a little bit, some of it may need to come down a little bit, depending on where you are and how you think about it and how you work within your life and within your framework. So it should remind us that when we work, for many, working is a resource to get the things that we need. When we work for the kingdom, it is a service to others, a service to God. And ultimately, all of the work that we do and how we do it is a gift back to God for the life that He has granted us and that He has gifted us and that is within us. As we use it, this is how we thank God, or maybe not thank God, for the life that He has given to us. This mindset allows us to remember that it is God who endows us with life and not make it an idol in and of itself. Whether it is the money that we earn or the work that we do or the effort that we put into work, none of it should ever be so highly thought of that it is what we automatically gravitate towards or think of as the most important thing. It should allow us to remember the purposes of work as a means of survival and as a means of service. Above all, we should realize and remember that our ultimate call, no matter how many things we do in our lives, are to be Christians. And that all the work we do has limited value. We won't always like it, but we will have to do it. At some point in time, we will have to work. Whether it's working a job, whether it's working for the kingdom, whether it's working to help and service somebody else. There's some kind of work to be done every day that we wake up. God gives us something to do. When counseling members, there's three or four examples of people in different scenarios within the book. I won't go over those things. I'll just talk about the steps that we're given to help us and aid us if we are in counseling sessions with those who may come to us and their problem is work related. She suggests including some of the following things: to take an inventory of the kinds of work that those that are coming to you in need of help are doing. You want to know how it benefits them. You want to know how it benefits those that they support. You want to know examples of the work that they do. You want to know how the two goods of work are balanced. How is the good of work balanced for the support of your life and the support of your family? Or is there no balance at all? What are the priorities of the people that are coming to you in their work for themselves, in their work for the kingdom, in their work for their families? Where do they spend the most of their time? What do they spend the most of their time doing? What are the similarities and the differences between those two lists? Because sometimes we may think that our priorities and the things that we do match when they actually don't. What do you perceive the issues to be? What do you feel is the ideal work situation? What do you feel is most important in your life as a Christian? What are the immovables in the situation? There are some things that may be able to change. There are some things within our situations that we may not be able to change. And we have to contend with those realities and realize that sometimes in some things, there are some things that are immovable. What are some steps that can be taken to better the situation? What are some things that you can do to make sure that you can work a little bit better or work a little bit less so that you can continue to have a good situation and a good mindset in regards to work and how it affects you and supports the people that you care for? Looking for patterns of joy within how you work, or what are some things you can do to add joy into how you work, and how can you replicate it and duplicate it over and over and over. Asking yourself, what do you want to look back on your life and see? And what evidence do you have of that now? How can you build to that place? Reminding everybody that the tough situations that we're into, the work that we're doing, all of it ultimately is temporary. There are some things that may not be changeable now, but everything after a while is temporary anyway. Something's going to change eventually. Suggesting aid, whether it is temporary assistance, whether it is setting them up with people who are going through similar situations, have been through those situations so that they can be mentored, whether it is providing other aids and support and community access. Not forgetting the church community, whether it be including things about work and sermons, having open forums, having group support or support groups, reading about work, and polling congregants to see what is the evidence within your congregation so that you can better service them and get them the information that they need. Being mindful of how things are scheduled so that you can make sure, if at all possible, that you're scheduling things to where people can actually show up and be participatory. And most of all, remembering the Sabbath. Work is fine, work is great, work is good, but we also need to remember that it is important to find places to rest. I hope that this has been helpful. God bless us as we continue this work week. Amen.